folks, it's Andrew from Gemba Red, and today we're going to be talking about red light therapy panels coming from Alibaba. These are three of the top panels and top brands that I've shopped around for, and I want to kind of give you perspective that these are a viable alternative. You can buy just one piece from Alibaba from some of these suppliers, or if you're ambitious, you could start your own business. You can slap your brand on it, slap your logo, and customize the wavelengths, customize the lenses. Sometimes they'll do it for a single piece if you just want to customize your own panel with your own wavelengths. So there's a lot of opportunities, and these ones also incorporate a lot of the next gen features. Like this one has the double chip LEDs, so you've got kind of in each spot is one red chip and then one near infrared chip, so that way all the LEDs light up, and theoretically maybe you can get a little bit more power out of it. And then this one from Sadi Light, I've reviewed SAIDI in the past, is a very good supplier, supplies to a lot of brands, and now because they've been low flicker for all these years, now they've added a kind of pulsing technology to it, maybe at the request of a certain brand, but you could play around with the pulsing. I don't think there's any evidence that pulsing's a particularly useful idea for red light therapy panels. There's not a lot of studies about that. Mostly it's used for lasers to mitigate the heat buildup from the lasers, so it's kind of weird to just people kind of slapping in features that aren't really proven out. And if they are making claims about extra recovery or extra this or extra that, you would hope that they have studies with their actual product that proves that it's superior in some way or another. And it just seems like a lot of these new features, these new gimmicks, are a pivot away from what was the core narrative for all these years of being more intensity. Oh, we're the highest intensity. No, we're the highest intensity. No, we are. No, we are. And it's still kind of escalating, and I think hopefully we've hit kind of a dead end, because I don't think panels should be much more intense. You're going to just start feeling more and more heat, which isn't the point of red light therapy. So anyway, back to the topic. We're talking about, this is the Butterfly Island Technology panel. They go by a brand name sometimes called Sun's Red. That has the double chip. It's got a very nice design. This is the SGROW Max Pro. So you've seen I reviewed the SGROW VIG 1000 a couple years ago, and I wasn't particularly impressed by it because it had high flicker and high EMFs. But they assured me, they've eliminated the flicker, they've turned up the power, and it's a very nice aesthetic design. And then, like I said, the Sadi Light, they've packed in a lot of LEDs, so we expect it to be pretty powerful. And they've got the pulse frequencies. So again, very viable options. These are their standard ones. They only have 660 nanometer and 850 nanometer. I did quickly check them all with my Thunder Optics spectrometer. They hit in the range. LEDs kind of have a broad range, so there's a little bit of measurement variability, but the wavelengths check out. And then the controversy of how are we going to check the intensity, which a lot of people are looking for intensity in terms of milliwatts per centimeter squared. You'll notice a lot of companies are trying to pivot and distract you and say, oh, we have third-party testing, but that third-party testing, it comes from a generic lamp lab, not a professional light therapy lab, and they don't even directly measure intensity. So that's why they're trying to pivot you to look at the total power or the total joules, because first of all, they might not even know the actual intensity, because this lab, ITL Boulder, doesn't directly measure intensity. They can calculate it for you pretty well, but they're just testing the entire output. So it's a lot of weird pivots, and a lot of it starts with these solar power meters. This is the Tenmars TM206. It's been the subject of a lot of controversy lately, even though some somewhat reputable people like Ari Whitten use this for his book. A lot of reviewers like Primal Hacker use it. You've seen a lot of companies will use it. So make sure you recognize this, that this always reads falsely high. I've got tons of blogs about this now. This always reads falsely high. But again, there's multiple solar power meters on the market. I've tested like a half dozen of them so far, like this TES 1333, which is also popular with a lot of brands, with the Chinese manufacturers, and again, reads falsely high, just like the Tenmar. So it's weird that some people are trying to, blame the focus on a Tenmar solar power meter, and sometimes in general they say solar power meters are bad, but they're always bad. They're always high. I've tested so many of them. They're always falsely high by a wide margin, by 2 or 3 times the real amount. So how can you really know what you're getting and how to use it safely, how to use it effectively, especially when companies are cranking up the intensity more and more, but you don't know the real intensity to know if it's safe for your eyes or safe for your skin. So anyway, so again, companies, they might conveniently crop off the logo and still show you these measurements anyway. It's all misdirection. So anyway, I'll show you some measurements with the laser power meter on these guys, just so you can compare the companies that are still lying about intensity. And then I'll show you the measurements on the Sanwa laser power meter, which I've checked is much more accurate compared to my third-party measurements. And again, it's not all about pricing. Some companies want to fill you with some fallacy that, oh, this is only $70 or 80 or 90 if you actually check the listing on Amazon. And they try to disparage us. I would be happy if there was a cheap alternative. It's not about the price, it's about checking it against known standards, making sure it's calibrated right, making sure it's the right tool for the job. There are power meters and laser power meters that are thousands and thousands of dollars. It doesn't mean you should just mindlessly buy the most expensive one. Again, if that fallacy were true, then you might as well just mindlessly buy the most expensive panel on the market and just ignore the companies that are crying about these solar power meters. So again, it's all fallacies. So I'm trying to keep elucidating what the truth is, give you the info. And again, these aren't even, you can't even use them for comparison purposes, because you'll see these two only have like a difference of 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared according to my laser power meter, but this one flies off the scale. And that's led to a lot of false comparative advertising where companies will say, oh, we're twice the intensity of Juve. Oh, we're twice this as Juve. But these, fly off the handle so much that it's actually false comparative advertising against Juve. And so, Juve has a pretty good case against a lot of these companies that have been making this claim that they'll double the intensity, because they're not. So Juve probably has a pretty good case to launch, lawsuits or anything. Maybe they have, but they probably wouldn't publicly disclose it because they'd have to admit that their original measurements were wrong. And, I don't think Juve would be stupid enough to openly admit that they measured their intensity wrong, especially in legal documents. But, everyone's different. I guess I can't really predict it anymore. I checked Flickr with the Radix Loop-In Flickr meter. Again, it's really cheap. It's only $125. You could buy a UPR Tech or a Hopo Color for $1,000 or $2,000. And I think this gets you pretty close to the range. It's great for amateurs. But again, I get my panels third-party tested for Flickr because I want to know the real Flickr according to industry standards, So, I use this just, again, for the visual confirmation, for a quick confirmation. But if you're a professional and you're reselling lights, you'd want to get them properly measured at a lab. And same thing with my laser power meter. I still get my panels professionally measured. So anyway, I'll just turn these on so you can take a quick look at them, and then we'll go rapid fire through the measurements. I'm only going to show intensity and EMF because the flicker is actually very low in all of them. So that's a good thing. The industry is starting to change to almost everyone's going to be low flicker now, even though for years they belligerently told me, oh, flicker's not a big deal. There's no safety issues. There's no studies about it. There's actually a lot of studies about it on flicker, not necessarily in red light therapy studies, but they do study pulsing in red light therapy studies, and they know that if you have modulation of intensity, that changes your peak and your low intensity, and you've got a new average intensity. So if you do have very high intensity, it's a safety issue, messes up your dosing calculation. And again, I made it very clear in my blog that the European Union is adding more flicker regulations, so you're going to need to be low flicker anyway. And so it's just funny, we're going to see more pivots, like I said, of, oh, suddenly we're low flicker, and we acknowledge that flicker could be a problem, and we're experts on flicker now, and you know, we sweep under the rug that we sold high flicker products in the past. So again, you're going to see all these pivots, but again, you'll see through them as well. So let's go into some of the measurements real quick. So we're doing our rapid fire intensity measurements with our 10 Mars solar power meter. This is the same power meter that it looks like Platinum LED uses, so if you want to compare to their numbers, you need to use this measurement, even though, like I always say, this rate's falsely high. So we're at 72 milliwatts per centimeter squared, 6 inches away, and what I'm going to do is just slide this whole table over so you can see there's no kind of funny business between measurements. And we're just going to line it back up. This is the SGROW Max Pro. So now you can see it jumped up to 131. But like I said, these start to really get out of whack. The higher intensity goes in the real world, this starts to shoot up higher and higher. So this is 131, so it's obviously more intense than the other one, but we don't know exactly how much. Then we're going to go over to the Sadi Light and get our last measurement here. Let's scuffle this over and line it up again. And the Sadi Light is at 145, so that's the highest intensity one. So the last rapid fire measurement we'll take is the magnetic field in milligauss. Like I said, the electric field is good and the flicker is good in all three, but the only interesting thing is this magnetic field, which is known throughout the industry that these panels can have high magnetic field. That's why we check it, and that's why companies talk about it. So this one is interesting because it kind of jumps around, so maybe there's something in there that's modulating the magnetic field, but it goes up to like 0.9 and back down to like maybe 0.6. It's pretty interesting, but it's not completely zero, but it's pretty low, so that's good, especially at 6 inches away. That should be sufficiently low. So that was the Butterfly Island, and now we're here at the SGROW, and it jumps up to 3. So again, definitely not 0. Let's line it up with 6. So it's about 3 milligauss. So it's definitely not 0. It's definitely something measurable. You know, maybe you'll move a little bit further away, or 3 might be fine for most people. And then here is the Sadi Light, is at 4.6 milligauss. So that's definitely the highest. So even though, you know, you get the highest intensity, it also happens to have the highest milligauss. It doesn't always work that way, but for this case it does. So there we go, the highest. So, but you know, again, then maybe you move further away, but companies should really be showing you this measurement with a high quality, this is Alpha Labs brand milligauss meter. A lot of companies will say, oh, we read 0, but it's on some piece of crap measurement tool, so you know, you need to get it the right stuff, just like measuring intensity. So we just measured the intensity with a solar power meter, laser power meter, and then we checked the EMFs, the magnetic field, at 6 inches away. All those were done at 6 inches away. So you can see, I'm going to read off my blog. This guy was 36 milliwatts per centimeter squared according to the laser power meter, and it was 74 according to the solar power meter, which makes it pretty equivalent to some of the original Juve panels, which again weren't super intense, but they were effective. They seemed like they were effective at least, so this is kind of equivalent to the Juve intensity. It is the loudest one in terms of decibels, and like when I turn it on, it definitely sounds loudest. So that's annoying. It was lowest in EMF, so that's good. So again, there's some subtle trade-offs. I don't want to always just tell people to buy whatever I prefer or whatever. I don't really care. So there's some trade-offs. I don't like the noise, but I like that it's low EMF, low flicker. It looks very cool with the double chips and with the black case, and it's one of the more compact and lightweight ones that we've got here. So again, those are some pretty good pros, towards preferring that one. Obviously, these two are much more intense. They're closer to 42 milliwatts per centimeter squared and 43. But like I said, there's only 1 milliwatt difference between these two, which again is pretty impressive because this one has more spaced out LEDs. Maybe they're running them a little higher, and these ones are more compact, so with more LEDs. So you can see, you got to really just measure the intensity and professionally measure the total output. But if there's only 1 milliwatt difference between them, we see almost 20 milliwatts per centimeter squared difference in the solar power meter. And so again, you could really falsely compare some of these and say, oh my god, these two are so much more powerful than this one, and this one is dramatically bigger than this one. It's really not a big difference, not a big margin. So again, like I said, it leads to a lot of false comparative advertising, not just, oh, I want to mindlessly buy the highest intensity one, but if you learn the margins only a difference of 1 or 2 milliwatts, then it's probably not going to affect your buying decision as much as a false claim of being double the power, if that makes sense. So again, the milligauss did jump up on these two ones at 6 inches away, which was a little bit surprising. I thought companies were a little bit more aware of trying to reduce the milligauss. Maybe it's correlated to the higher power that they're doing. So it's a little bit more. Definitely couldn't claim to be no EMF. A lot of companies claim to be no EMF because they're using a cheap meter and it reads 0. But if you have a high sensitivity meter, a good one, then like the one I have will read the real number. So again, there's more EMFs on these two guys. So again, if you have a preference to be a low EMF lifestyle, you go for this one. Again, they're all very low flicker, so I didn't show that measurement. So I think that's great. If I really had to choose one, I'd probably choose the SGROW. Like I said, it's a little bit lower EMF than the Sadi Light. Still really good power. Relatively simple control scheme. I'll go over the control schemes in another video maybe. Just kind of a solid unit. But this one claims to have a 5-year warranty, which is great. It's more tricky with buying from Alibaba to fulfill a warranty claim. Usually they just send you replacement parts or try to help you repair it. This one, even though it's got a 5-year warranty, it's got high quality drivers, it was dead on arrival. So that was ironic because it's supposed to last the longest. So I had to poke around inside and find a loose wire and plug it back in. So I gave that note to SGROW and I said, hey, make sure you're checking all your wires, make sure they're firmly kind of snugged in, that they don't fall out during shipment. If it shakes around and you lose a wire. So hopefully in the future they correct that. That's I give a lot of feedback to these Alibaba suppliers, and then that benefits whoever they're selling to, whether it's a company or a consumer. So again, hopefully all this testing helps. I'll just quickly turn them all on so you can take a look at them, see how they look. So you see this one, all the LEDs are illuminated because they've got the double chips. This one you see more of a diagonal pattern alternating the red and the invisible near infrared. So these ones look like nothing's happening, but it's invisible light, and that's why a lot of these controllers will have an indicator light to tell you which modes are on, and even this one does. And then we'll turn on the Sadi Light. Alright, and then this one's kind of the same. You got the diagonal kind of stripes going on. This one's definitely the loudest, you know, the first one that I turned on from Butterfly Technology. These two are about the same in terms of noise and loudness. And again, they're pretty simple to turn on and off, but they've got these fancy controls on the side. So that's it. That's these three panels. We went over all the important things: intensity, flicker, wavelengths, noise. So again, you know, you can get a pretty nice panel for a lot lower cost, and especially if you're thinking about building out a whole wall of panels and you're getting multiple panels, you could probably save thousands of dollars getting it more directly from the manufacturer. But again, there's pros and cons. If you have to deal with a defect, then you know you have to have a little bit more technical skills to troubleshoot it and fix it. But otherwise, you know, I just want to keep making people aware of these alternatives, and that, you know, I do these tests to help you decide, help you see what's available on the market, to shop around, understand what to look for in terms of testing, measurements. Look, you know, if they've got a solar power meter measurement, ask them for real numbers. If they don't have it, say goodbye. You know, and then, you know, try to like and share this review. Give me a comment if you want to see any other testing. You know, I do these reviews that do help my publicity as an alternative to paying lots of money to Facebook and to Google and Instagram to make ads. Or, you know, some companies just build up a lot of search engine kind of wording, and they make hodgepodge articles based on things that they skim off of other sites, and then once you visit them once, they put that tracker on you, and then they harass you throughout the whole internet with the advertisements. So once you get hooked in with their little SEO game, hodgepodge articles that they skim their references from, you know, they come after you with all these ads. So again, if you want to see more testing like this, if you want to encourage me to test more panels, keep doing this kind of thing, get better test equipment, then, you know, just like and share it, and let me know your comments if you want to see anything in particular. Thanks for tuning in.